Kale walked into the restaurant with his son Rin following behind him. The place was filled with wealthy dragons, all dressed in expensive clothes and talking about money and business deals. The air smelled like fine food and perfume. Kale was a very rich dragon. He owned companies that made billions of credits every year. He was powerful, cold, and nobody dared to speak to him unless he spoke first. Rin was different from other dragons. He was Kale's only son, born from his mate Lyra who had died 8 years ago. Rin could not fly like other young dragons. His wings were weak and did not work properly. He could not breathe fire either. His scales were a pale blue color, not the bright gold that powerful dragons had. Because of this, other dragons did not like Ren. They thought he was broken. They thought he was not a real dragon at all. Kale did not like to think about Ren's problems. He brought his son to the restaurant only because he had to show his face in public. He needed people to see that the Kale family was still strong and important. Kale sat at a table in the corner of the restaurant. Ren sat across from him looking at the floor. Kale was looking at his phone, reading messages about a big business deal. The deal was worth 1 billion credits. This was very important to him. He did not look at Ren at all. Ren was quiet and sad. He sat very still in his chair. His tail did not move. He did not look at anyone. Other young dragons at nearby tables were laughing and talking with their fathers. They were strong and healthy. They were everything that Ren was not. Ren tried to hide behind the menu so nobody would see him. Then a human woman walked over to their table. Her name was Emma. She was a waitress at the restaurant. She had dark hair and kind blue eyes. Emma was one of the few humans who still worked in places where rich dragons came. Most humans were workers or servants now, but Emma was different. She was smart and she was kind to everyone, even the dragons who did not treat humans well. Emma started to place the food on the table. She was bringing soup for Kale and a special fish dish for Ren. As she worked, soft music began to play in the restaurant. It was an old song from Earth from a time long ago. The song had a deep, slow rhythm that made people want to move. The music was beautiful and sad at the same time. Emma heard the song and she could not help herself. Her body started to move very slowly. She swayed her hips a little bit. She moved her shoulders. Her feet moved in a gentle pattern. She was not dancing in a big way. She was just moving naturally to the music. It was a small, quiet thing. Nobody else really noticed what she was doing. But Ren noticed. Ren looked up from the menu. He saw Emma moving. His eyes grew wide. He watched every movement she made. He watched how her body went to the left, then to the right. He watched how she moved her arms. Something inside Ren woke up. Something that had been sleeping for a long time. He had never seen anything like this before. He had never seen someone move with such grace and feeling. He had never seen something so beautiful. Emma finished putting the food down. She was about to walk away when she looked at Ren's face. She saw that he was watching her with great interest. She saw that his eyes were bright now, not dark and sad like before. Emma smiled. She made a decision that would change everything. "Would you like to learn?" Emma asked Ren. Her voice was kind and warm. She was not asking permission from Kale. She was talking directly to Ren, treating him like a person who could make his own choices. This was something Ren was not used to. Ren nodded very slowly. He could not speak. He was too surprised. Emma came around the table and stood next to Ren. She took his hand gently. His hand was much bigger than hers. His skin was cool like stone. But Emma did not pull away. She showed him how to stand up. Then she began to teach him the dance steps. "First, you move your feet like this," Emma said. She moved to the left. Then like this, she moved to the right. She moved slowly so Ren could see exactly what to do. Ren tried to copy her movements. At first, his body was stiff and he moved the wrong way. But Emma did not laugh at him. She just showed him again and again. Then something amazing happened. Ren began to understand the pattern. His body began to move in the right way. His tail swayed to help him balance. His scales started to shine brighter. A real smile appeared on his face. Not a small smile. A big, real, happy smile. Ren was feeling joy. Real joy. For the first time in years, Ren was happy. Kale was still looking at his phone. He was still reading about the business deal. He was thinking about money and power. He was thinking about all the things he needed to buy and all the deals he needed to make. He was not paying attention to anything else. His son was just sitting there. His son's happiness did not matter to him. Or at least that is what Kale believed. But then something made Kale look up. Maybe it was a sound. Maybe it was just a feeling. Kale turned his head and saw his son dancing with the human waitress. He saw Ren's bright smile. He saw his son moving with grace. He saw his son alive. The music was ending. Emma stepped back and let Rin stand on his own. Rin was breathing hard but smiling. Emma touched his shoulder gently and walked away to help other customers. Cale looked at his son. Rin sat back down at the table. The smile was still on his face. For just one moment, Cale saw something he had not seen in years. He saw his son happy. He saw his son proud. He saw his son like Lyra used to be, full of life and light. Cale did not know what to feel. This moment was small. It was nothing important in the world of business and money. But something deep inside Cale's heart moved. Something woke up inside him just like something had woken up inside Ren. Cale looked at Emma as she worked in the restaurant. Then he looked back at his son. And for the first time in 8 years, Cale felt something he had almost forgotten how to feel. He felt love. Cale could not sleep that night. He lay in his large bed in his huge house, and all he could think about was what he had seen at the restaurant. He kept remembering the image of his son dancing. He kept seeing Ren's bright smile. He kept hearing the music and seeing Emma move so gracefully. This was strange for Cale. Cale never thought about small things. Cale thought about important things like money and power and making his companies bigger and better. He thought about beating his competitors. He thought about winning deals worth billions of credits. He never thought about dancing. He never thought about smiles. He never thought about moments of happiness. But now he could not stop thinking about it. When Ren came down to breakfast the next morning, Cale noticed something different. Ren was standing taller. Ren's eyes were brighter. Ren looked alive in a way he had not looked alive before. "Father, last night was wonderful," Ren said as he sat down to eat. "Emma taught me so many things. She showed me how to move to music. She showed me that I can do things I never thought I could do." Cale listened to his son talk. He watched Ren's face as he spoke about Emma and the dance. For the first time, Cale really looked at his son. Really saw him. Not as a problem or a disappointment, but as a young dragon with feelings and hopes and dreams. "Tell me more," Cale said. This shocked Ren. His father never asked him questions. His father never wanted to know what Ren was thinking or feeling. Ren talked for a long time. He talked about the song. He talked about how Emma's movements were so beautiful and smooth. He talked about how good it felt to learn something new. He talked about how Emma made him feel like he was not broken. He talked about how Emma treated him like he was important and special. Cale sat and listened to every word. 3 days later there was a special meeting. The High Dragon Council sent for Cale. The High Dragon Council was the group of the most powerful dragons in the galaxy. They made all the important decisions. They decided how things should be done. They decided who was worthy and who was not worthy. Cale had to go to the council's big building on the highest mountain in the main city. He walked into a huge room with tall ceilings and gold everywhere. 7 ancient dragons sat on 7 thrones. They looked down at Cale with cold eyes. The oldest dragon was named Vex. He had ruled for 500 years. His scales were dark red like blood. His voice was very deep and very powerful. "Cale," Vex said, "we have called you here because we have heard disturbing news about your son." Cale said nothing. He waited to hear what they would say. "Your son is weak," another dragon said. "He cannot fly. He cannot breathe fire. He is not a true dragon. The Cale bloodline is becoming weak. We have decided," Vex continued, "that your son should be sent away. There is a colony world far from here in the dark part of space. Your son can go there. He can live there with other broken dragons. He will not embarrass the Cale name anymore." This was the first time Cale had to make a real choice. Before, Cale would have said yes. Before, Cale would have agreed immediately. Before, Cale would have seen his son as a problem that needed to be solved. But that was before the restaurant. That was before he saw his son dance. Cale opened his mouth and he said something he had never said to the High Dragon Council before. "No," Cale said. The council was silent. Nobody had ever said no to the High Dragon Council before. "What did you say?" Vex asked. His voice was very angry now. "I said no," Cale repeated. "My son will not be sent away. My son will stay with me. And I will make sure he has everything he needs." "You are defying us?" Vex stood up from his throne. Fire came from his mouth. "We are the High Dragon Council. We are the most powerful beings in this galaxy." "I do not care," Cale said. And he meant it. For the first time in his life, Cale cared about something more than power. He cared about his son. Cale walked out of the council building. He knew this was dangerous. He knew the council could try to hurt him. But he did not care anymore. When Cale got home, he made a decision. He used his phone and he called the restaurant. He asked for Emma. When Emma came on the phone, Cale said something that surprised even him. "I want you to come work for me," Cale said. I want you to be my son's personal teacher. I will pay you very well. I will give you anything you want. I just need you to teach Ren." Emma was shocked. She said yes. 2 weeks later, Emma came to live in Kale's house. She had her own room and her own bathroom. Kale gave her everything she needed to be comfortable. But more importantly, Kale gave her time with Ren. Every day, Emma and Ren spent hours together. Emma taught Ren about human history. She taught him about human art and human music and human culture. She taught him that humans valued things that dragons did not value. Humans valued creativity. Humans valued kindness. Humans valued love and family and friendship. Ren listened to everything Emma said. He learned that there was more to life than being strong and powerful. He learned that there were many different ways to be important and valuable. Other dragons started to laugh at Kale. They said he was crazy. They said he was wasting his time and money on a broken son and a human slave. They said the Kale family was becoming weak and would soon lose all its power and money. Kale did not care what they said anymore. One evening, Emma was teaching Ren about human families. She told him stories about human parents who would do anything to protect their children. She told him about human parents who would sacrifice everything for their children. In human families, Emma said, a parent's love is not measured by how much power they have or how much money they have. A parent's love is measured by how much they are present. It is measured by sacrifice. It is measured by how much they care about their child's happiness. Kale was standing outside the room. He heard what Emma said. He heard every word. And something broke inside Kale. Something broke open. All the years of being cold and distant came crashing down. He thought about his dead mate Lyra. He thought about how she used to hold Ren when he was small. He thought about how she used to smile at Ren even though he was different. He thought about how much she loved their son. Kale had forgotten how to love like that. But now, hearing Emma's words, Kale remembered. Kale walked into the room where Emma and Ren were sitting. He stood in front of his son. And for the first time since Lyra died, Kale opened his arms and pulled Ren into an embrace. Ren started to cry. Happy tears came down his face. And Kale cried too. Everything was going to change now. Kale did not know it yet, but his life as he knew it was over. A new life was about to begin. A life where power and money did not matter as much as love and family and doing what was right. It all started with a dance at a restaurant and a kind human woman named Emma who saw something good in a broken dragon boy. Kale sat in his office at the top of his biggest building. He was looking at documents and reports from all of his companies. But he was not thinking about money anymore. He was thinking about what Emma had told him. He was thinking about his son. He was thinking about what was right and what was wrong. For his entire life, Kale had accepted the way things were. Dragons were powerful. Humans were workers and servants. That was the order of things. That was how the galaxy worked. That was what everyone believed. But now Kale was starting to see things differently. He started to notice things he had never noticed before. He saw humans working in his factories for very little pay. He saw humans doing the hardest jobs while dragons sat and gave orders. He saw humans treated like they were not important or valuable. He saw humans who were just as smart and creative and capable as any dragon, but nobody ever gave them a chance. Emma had shown Ren that humans had art and music and culture and history. Emma had shown Ren that humans were not just workers. Humans were people. Real people with feelings and dreams and worth. Kale began to think. If Emma was right about humans, then everything he had believed his whole life was wrong. Everything he had built his empire on was wrong. So Kale made a decision that would change everything. He started to give humans important jobs in his companies. He took humans out of the factories and put them in offices. He gave them positions where they could make decisions and lead other people. He shared technology with human settlements. He gave them money to build their own schools and hospitals. Other dragons could not believe what Kale was doing. They thought he had gone crazy. Kale, what are you doing? His business partner Dorn asked him. Dorn was a large red dragon with many scars from battles. You are giving power to humans. Humans are not smart enough to lead. Humans are not strong enough to decide things. You are making a big mistake. No, Kale said. I was the one making a mistake before. Now I am trying to fix it. One day, Emma asked to speak with Kale in private. They sat in Kale's study, a quiet room with books and soft lighting. Kale, I need to tell you something, Emma said. She looked nervous. I was not completely honest with you when I came to work here. Kale waited to hear what she would say. I am part of a group, Emma continued. We are called the Human Resistance. We have been working to help humans escape slavery and gain freedom. We have been gathering information about dragon power structures. We have been planning to start a revolution. Kale felt surprised but not angry. He realized that he understood why humans would want to rebel. He realized that humans had every right to fight for freedom. "Were you sent here to spy on me?" Kale asked. "At first, yes," Emma said. "But that changed. Ren is special. You are changing. What you are doing is right. I could not spy on you anymore. I could not work against you when you are already doing what is right." Kale stood up and looked out his window. He could see the whole city below him. He could see humans working in the streets. He could see dragons in their fancy buildings. "I want to help," Kale said. "I want to use my power and my money to help humans. Not secretly. Not in small ways. I want to do it openly. I want to challenge the whole system." Emma looked shocked. "This is very dangerous, Kale. The council will see this as treason. They might try to kill you." "I know," Kale said. "But what is the point of having all this power if I use it to hurt people? If I do not use it to help people when they need help, then I am just as bad as all the other dragons." Over the next few months, Kale and Emma worked together. They planned carefully. They brought in other humans who were part of the resistance. They also brought in some younger dragons who believed that change was needed. Rin became very important to their plan. Videos of Rin dancing with Emma were shared across the galaxy. These videos showed something that had never been shown before. They showed a disabled dragon being valued and loved. They showed a human and a dragon working together as equals. They showed friendship and kindness between the two species. People began to talk about these videos. Young dragons saw them and began to question what they had been taught. Humans saw them and began to believe that change was possible. The High Dragon Council saw these videos too. They understood what was happening. They understood that Kale was leading a rebellion against them. The council called Kale for another meeting. This time Kale went prepared. He brought documents and evidence. He brought recordings and information. He brought the truth. In the great hall of the council, Kale stood in front of the 7 ancient dragons. "For 150 years, Kale said, his voice strong and clear, "the dragons have ruled the humans. We have taken their freedom. We have taken their wealth. We have treated them like they are not important or valuable. But we were wrong." Kale showed the evidence. He showed how many humans had died working in dangerous conditions. He showed how humans were paid almost nothing while dragons became very rich. He showed how humans had created beautiful art and music and science, but dragons had never given them credit. "I am a dragon," Kale said. "I am rich and powerful. But I have learned something important. True strength is not about how much power you have. True strength is about doing what is right even when it is hard. True strength is about recognizing the value in others and giving them freedom." The council was angry. Vex stood up from his throne. "You are guilty of treason," Vex said. "We will have you arrested. We will take away everything you have." "Then do it," Kale said. "But you cannot stop what is already happening. Across the galaxy, humans and progressive dragons are rising up. They are demanding equality. They are demanding justice. You can arrest me, but you cannot arrest an entire movement." As if on signal, the doors of the great hall burst open. Hundreds of humans and young dragons walked in. They held signs and banners. They chanted for freedom and equality. The council realized they could not stop this. The movement was too big now. It had grown beyond their control. Kale walked out of the council building a free dragon, but he knew war might be coming. He knew the old council would not give up their power easily. But he did not regret his choice. He had spent his whole life chasing money and power. Now, for the first time, he was chasing something that actually mattered. He was fighting for what was right. And he was not alone anymore. He had Emma. He had Ren. He had thousands of humans and dragons who believed in a better future. As Kale looked at the crowds of people gathering in the streets, he understood that real power was not about ruling other people. Real power was about inspiring other people to believe that change was possible. And that was a power that no council could ever take away from him. War came to the galaxy like a storm that nobody could stop. The old dragons of the High Council did not want to give up their power. They did not want to accept that things had to change. So they decided to fight. The first battle happened on a planet called Meridian. It was a planet where many humans lived. The planet had farms and cities and schools. It was a peaceful place, but it became a place of fire and destruction. Kale stood on a high hill and watched the battle below him. He was not the same dragon who had owned factories and counted money. He was different now. But he was still strong. He was still powerful. The difference was that now he used his strength to protect people instead of to hurt them. Kale's forces were smaller than the council's forces. But they were fighting for something they believed in. They were fighting for freedom and equality. They were fighting because they had no choice. On the ground, human soldiers and young dragons fought side by side. They were not as trained as the council's soldiers. They did not have as many weapons. But they had something more important. They had hope. Rin was not fighting on the battlefield. Rin could not fight. His body was not made for war and violence. But Rin was doing something just as important. He was in a command center working with a team of humans and dragons who were planning the battles. The council forces are moving to the eastern side, a human named Robert told Rin, pointing at a map on the wall. If they get there, they can attack the city. Rin looked at the map carefully. His mind was sharp and quick even though his body was weak. He could see things that other people could not see. He could see patterns and connections. No, Rin said. We can move our forces here. He pointed to a different place on the map. The terrain is difficult for large groups. The council's heavy weapons will not work well there. We can stop them without losing many of our people. Robert looked at the map. He nodded slowly. That is smart thinking, Rin. That will work. This was Ren's strength. This was how he was helping in the war. Not with muscles or fire or weapons, but with intelligence and strategy. Rin was saving lives by thinking carefully and planning well. Kale was fighting in the battle. He used his size and his power to protect the soldiers around him. But he was not trying to kill the council's dragons. He was trying to stop them without hurting them. He was trying to show them that there was another way. But some of the council's dragons were very angry. They did not want to listen. They wanted to destroy everyone who disagreed with them. One dragon named Garth was especially cruel. Garth was one of the council's most powerful warriors. He had killed many beings in his life. He did not care about what was right or wrong. He only cared about winning. Garth flew at Kale with his claws ready to attack. The two dragons crashed together in the sky. They were both strong. They were both experienced. But Kale had something that Garth did not have. Kale had a reason to fight that was not about power or winning. Kale was fighting to protect his son and his friends. You have made a terrible mistake, Garth roared. The council will never accept what you are doing. We will destroy you and everyone who follows you. You are wrong, Kale said. He blocked Garth's attacks. Things are already changing. You cannot stop it. You can only decide if you will accept the change or if you will die fighting against it. They fought for a long time. Fire came from their mouths. Their claws clashed together. But finally, Kale won. He did not kill Garth. He just made Garth fall to the ground and could not fight anymore. Meanwhile, something terrible was happening. The council's forces had a plan that was very evil. They were going to attack a human settlement where many families lived. There were old people and children in that settlement. They were not soldiers. They were just normal people trying to survive. Emma was at that settlement. She was helping people get their things ready to escape. She was organizing the evacuation. She was making sure that everyone would be safe. But when the council's dragons attacked, many of the people could not escape fast enough. They were trapped. They would be killed. Emma made a decision. She told the other humans to leave. She said she would stay behind and help slow down the attackers so that more people could escape. Emma, no. Robert shouted. You cannot stay here. I have to, Emma said. Her voice was strong and calm. These people need help. I am the only one who can slow down the dragons long enough for the children and old people to escape. Emma stood in front of the settlement. She was just a human and the dragons were huge and powerful. But she did not move. She did not run away. When Kale heard what Emma was doing, something changed inside him. He realized that he had to make a choice. He could go to the battle that was happening to the north and he could win a big victory. But if he did that, Emma would probably die. Or he could leave the battle and go save Emma. It was not a hard choice. Not anymore. Kale flew as fast as he could toward the settlement where Emma was. When he got there, he saw the council's dragons attacking. He saw Emma standing there, small and brave and alone. Kale landed in front of Emma and spread his wings to protect her. I will not let you hurt her, Kale said to the council's dragons. And I will not let you hurt these people. The council's dragons hesitated. They knew that fighting Kale was dangerous. But there were many of them and only one of Kale. Stand with me, Kale called out to the settlement. Everyone who believes in freedom, stand with me. And they did. Humans came out of the buildings with whatever weapons they had. Young dragons who believed in the cause stood beside Kale. They stood together, humans and dragons, united. The council's forces realized that they could not win this fight. They flew away. Emma looked at Kale. Tears were in her eyes. You chose to save us instead of winning the war, Emma said. Yes, Kale said. Because this is what the war is about. It is about protecting people like you. It is about showing that beings from different species can stand together and help each other. If I did not do that, then what would be the point of fighting? News of what Cale did spread across the galaxy. It spread that he had given up a strategic advantage to save humans. It spread that he had shown his true beliefs through his actions, not just his words. More dragons began to believe in the rebellion. More humans became brave. More beings realized that change was truly possible. The battles continued, but the outcome was becoming clear. The old order was dying. A new order was being born. And it was born because one powerful dragon learned to care about something more than power. It was born because a kind human waitress showed a disabled dragon boy that he had value. It was born because beings decided to stand together, no matter what species they were. Cale woke up in a medical facility. His body was in pain. His scales were burned and damaged. His wings were wrapped in bandages. He had been in a very serious battle and he had almost died. For weeks, Cale had been fighting against the Council's forces. The final battle had been the worst one. It had been long and terrible and many beings had died. Cale had fought as hard as he could, but he had been hurt very badly. Ren was sitting next to his father's bed when Cale opened his eyes. Ren had tears on his face. "Father, you are awake," Ren said. He reached out and held his father's hand. "I was so scared I would lose you." Cale tried to smile but it hurt. "I am still here," he said quietly. "What happened? Did we win?" "Yes," Ren said. "We won. The council has fallen. The old government is gone." Cale closed his eyes. He felt relief wash over him. All the fighting, all the pain, all the sacrifice had been worth something. After many weeks of healing, Cale was finally strong enough to leave the medical facility. Emma came to pick him up. She helped him walk slowly to a transport vehicle. "Welcome back to the world," Emma said with a smile. "Everything is very different now." She was right. Everything had changed. The old draconic collective that had ruled for 150 years was gone. The High Dragon Council had been defeated. The system that had made dragons superior and humans inferior was destroyed. In its place, something new was being built. Beings from different species were working together to create a new government. Dragons, humans, and other species were sitting at the same table and making decisions together. Nobody was more important than anybody else. Everyone had a voice. Cale went back to his home. It was the same building, but it felt completely different now. There were humans and dragons walking through the halls together. There were meetings happening where all beings were treated as equals. Cale had lost most of his wealth in the war. His companies had been taken apart and shared with the communities they had served. His buildings had been turned into schools and hospitals and community centers. His power had been given away to the people. But Cale did not feel sad about this. He felt free. For his entire life, Cale had tried to have more money and more power. He had tried to be more important than everyone else. He had worked and fought and schemed to keep what he had and get more. It had been exhausting. Now Cale did not have to do that anymore. Now he could just be a father. He could just be a friend. He could just be a being who tried to help others. Ren and Emma had a special project they were working on. They were opening a new kind of school. It was called the Academy of Unity. At this academy, young dragons and young humans would learn together. They would study history and science and art. But more importantly, they would learn to understand each other. They would learn that beings from different species could be friends. They would learn that different did not mean bad or wrong. "This is our dream," Emma told Cale as they walked through the new building. "This is what we have been fighting for. A place where all young beings can learn together and grow together." Ren was going to be one of the main teachers at the academy. His disability, which had been seen as weakness before, was now seen as his greatest strength. Ren could teach both dragons and humans because he understood what it felt like to be different. He understood what it felt like to not fit into society's expectations. On the opening day of the academy, there was a big celebration. Hundreds of young dragons and humans came to see the new school. Leaders from all the different species came to give speeches about unity and cooperation. That evening there was a special event. Ren and Emma were going to perform a dance together. It was the same dance that Emma had taught Ren at the restaurant so many months ago. But now it was different. Now it was being performed publicly in front of all these beings. Now it was a symbol of something much bigger. As the music began to play, Ren and Emma walked onto a large stage. The crowd became quiet. Everyone was watching. Ren moved to the left. Emma moved with him. They swayed to the rhythm. They moved their arms gracefully. They moved their feet in perfect timing. The dance was beautiful. But the most beautiful part was what happened next. Other dragons began to stand up. Other humans began to stand up. Soon the entire crowd was on the stage dancing with Ren and Emma. Dragons and humans, old and young, moving together to the same music, united in the same moment. Cale stood watching. He was old now. His scales had lost some of their brightness. His body was not as strong as it used to be. But his eyes were bright and his heart was full. He watched his son lead the dance. He watched his son teach others how to move and feel and celebrate together. He watched humans and dragons dancing as equals, as friends, as one community. For the first time in his very long life, Cale understood what real success was. Real success was not about having the most money or the most power. Real success was about making the world better. Real success was about helping others. Real success was about bringing beings together instead of keeping them apart. Cale thought about his dead mate Lyra. He thought about how she had always tried to teach him to be kinder and more thoughtful. He thought about how she would have loved to see this day. He thought about how this day was possible because he had finally listened to what she had been trying to teach him. In the years that followed, Cale spent most of his time working with Ren and Emma at the academy. He helped design buildings. He helped create classes. He helped young beings understand each other. He used his experience and his knowledge to help build the new society. The story of what had happened spread across the galaxy. The story of a cold billionaire dragon who had been transformed by a kind human waitress and a disabled dragon boy. The story of how one small act of kindness had started a movement that changed an entire civilization. Other planets began to follow the same path. Other species began to demand equality and freedom. Other communities began to build schools where all beings could learn together. All of it started with a moment at a restaurant. A moment when a human woman showed kindness to a dragon boy. A moment that seemed small and unimportant at the time, but that changed everything. Cale lived for many more years. When he finally died, at an age older than most beings lived, his memorial service was attended by thousands of dragons and humans and other beings. They came to celebrate his life and to honor what he had done. But the real monument to Cale was not a building or a statue. The real monument was the Academy of Unity, where young beings of all species learned together. The real monument was the new society where beings were treated as equals. The real monument was a galaxy that had learned to value kindness and compassion more than power and control. On the day that Ren took over the Academy completely, he stood on the same stage where he and Emma had danced so many years ago. He looked out at hundreds of young dragons and humans sitting together, learning together, believing together in a better future.